I would like to remind our committee members, I am one of the biggest offenders. I have a booming voice. We need to speak into our microphones or it will not be picked up by live streaming. And can I please invite the clerk to call the roll, please?
Chair Moschetti,
Present.
Member Allman, here. Member Angelo,
Here.
Member Liberty,
Here.
Member Riley,
Here.
Member Miller, here. Member Weir,
Here.
Member Myrtle,
Here.
Member Barish,
Here.
Member Ferretta. Did I say your last name right?
Yes.
Perfect.
Here.
Okay, thank you and welcome. Oh, he's
Oh,
guilty
sorry.
by
Vice
not
Chair
being-
Diamond is absent by prearrangement.
Thank you. So now I would invite public expression, and please remember that the public expression prior to the meeting is on items that are not on the agenda. So I invite public expression, please, and Joanne.
My name is Joanne Monahan, and I'm a resident of Ukiah, California. And I've come here today to speak regarding conservatorship. And I want to emphasize that as an oversight committee for mental health, that I'm wondering if you have a client representative for mental health on your committee. The reason I'm concerned about that is that clients' rights need to be encouraged in any mental health contract that the county provides for treatment. And also, I want to emphasize that regarding conservatorship, that I would encourage you not to support Governor Gavin Newsom's recommendation for the bar for conservatorship to be lowered, because I believe that to do so would cause mental health clients to be at greater risk of abuse of civil liberties. And I would encourage that there be as much encouragement of the homeless to participate in having a voice in treatment. And I especially want to see that clients' rights are not abused. Yes?
Thank you very much.
Okay, and let's see. As far as having a treatment center, I'm not in any objection to treatment. I acknowledge that there needs to be treatment. However, the treatment provided under Latterman-Petrus short is to be the least restrictive. And I believe in hospitalization, but not for any great length of time. I believe that we do need a psychiatric health facility here in Mendocino County, especially for the client rights.
Thank you very much. I'm sorry your 3 minutes are...
Oh, I'm sorry.
No problem.
I
Thank you
didn't
so
realize.
much. No problem. Thank you so much for your comments. We appreciate it. Any other public expression? Hearing, oh, yes, sir.
Jonathan Davis here from Ukiah. Inaction in a deed of mercy is action in a deadly sin. What do I mean by that? When we personally, in our own lives, allow things to build up, we're not taking care of business, we're not taking care of responsibility. Things go out of kilter, and it gets to be a karmic situation. Well, that's the way it has been with mental health here, across the country, everywhere. And I'm glad we're turning the corner here. Really good news. I like what you're doing. A lot of causes for the decline in mental health, physical health, should be apparent, but a lot of them aren't even addressed. It's more than just the fact that maybe at 2 or 3 or 4 years old, we didn't get the proper nurturing by our parents. It's much more than that, and a paradigmatic shift needs to occur. Several other reasons for the decline of health, mental, otherwise, is too many street drugs. Last 3 generations, a proliferation, exponential increase, and I'm talking about marijuana too, long-term effects, definitely, on the brain. 2, exponential increase in pharmaceuticals, and I do mean mental health pharmaceuticals too. You can get better well on natural stuff other than Zyprexa, Zoloft, Seroquel, all those medications. The third thing, since World War II, last 3 generations, proliferation, is junk food in our midst. Why we allow McDonald's and In-N-Out Burger here, I don't understand. At any rate, I know that's a political issue probably. I was the only one that demonstrated out there when In-N-Out Burger did come in. I propose that when the planning part comes in with Ned and the others, that we treat these individuals, get their dopamine and serotonin levels up in a more natural way. Yes, they're coming off very heavy traumatic experiences, off the wall, all that sort of stuff. But eventually, and we're not going to do it all at once in a few days that they're going to be there. But yeah, nothing wrong with some organic foods. I don't want to see any vending machines in those facilities like we have at the hospital. And I also want to introduce that we need a voucher system so that when they leave, or other clients, or even people in the public, get a voucher system to use at the natural foods at the co-op here, or up at Mariposa, where reduced money that they can start engorging their brains with real nutrients. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments. Anybody else? Public expression. Hearing none, we'll move on to agenda item 3A. Oh, okay.
Yes.
Sorry. My apologies.
Hi, I'm Emmy Good, and let me start by saying I'm going to be speaking about my 3-minute vision for the old Howard Hospital in terms of it being a treatment center. And I want to start by inviting all of you who have not been through the old hospital since it's closed. I have somebody who's willing to conduct a tour for you folks, for the Board of Supervisors at a separate time, for the Willits City Council at a separate time, but I think you all need to actually see the facility in order to kind of appreciate what's already here in our county. Now, I'm going to do this really fast because it does take 3 minutes, and since I spoke a little, I'll talk even faster. As I entered the old Howard Hospital, I experienced a wave of feelings. Many family members and friends' lives were helped and saved here. This old building is filled with loving memories and with such potential. I was pleasantly surprised to see how clean and well kept the building is. Over 30,000 square feet on over 3 acres, and it's been beautifully maintained. I took about 60 photos as we studied the map, remembering so many of the rooms and imagining what could be there now. First, we would like to think of this as the Howard Memorial mental wellness center, offering a wide range of professional treatment and counseling services and activities that promote good mental health. Residential programs are ideally suited for this property. There are 14 bay-windowed rooms with bathrooms, and each has a very pleasant view of the really lovely gardens that surround the building. Good mental health begins with good food, and I heard somebody commenting on that. There's a kitchen there, a fully active kitchen. It looks like they just walked out the door. The dishes are still there. It's really clean and beautiful and ready for somebody to fix food. There could be classes in cooking, nutrition, supplements, diet, and the kitchen has the potential to become not only maybe a training program, but it can feed the staff, clients, and visitors. I can see a Seabiscuit cafe that could offer healthy food to go. There are conference rooms for meetings and support groups that could be used for the needs from infants to seniors. There's plenty of room for services for those who are dealing with substance abuse, depression, psychological needs, homelessness, unwed mothers, abusive situations, and more. Because of the lack of time to expand on these exciting ideas, I'm just going to give you a list. There could be a variety store, a thrift craft shop where items that are made by the clients themselves could be sold. Hair salon, barber shop, classes in knitting, crocheting, handicrafts, use of herbs and growing herbs on site, cleansing and detox programs, body work, relaxation techniques, yoga, tai chi, qigong, juggling, meditation, dance and movement therapy groups, drama and music and art therapy, writing, journaling. People gave me lots of these ideas. I have to
Sum up in 10 seconds, please.
Okay, this is a kind and caring community, and we can help the Measure B funding county with Measure B funding. Please give Willits a chance to not be bypassed, to give them a chance to show you what they have. Thank you.
Thank you. Now I'm going to look. I'm going to look very carefully. Anybody else? Okay, thank you.
Hi, my name's Freddie Long. I live in Willits. Everything that Emmy just said, I agree with full-heartedly. I want to ask you, have you considered what the economic benefit might be for Willits? So many businesses have closed. Using the hospital facility could have a significant positive impact on our local economy. We desperately need that. And I love the idea of using the hospital, so I hope you can add that to what you're considering. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, hearing none. We will move on to agenda item number 3A, approval of the minutes. Sarah.
Good afternoon, committee. Before you in agenda item 3A is the minutes from the January 22nd, 2020 meeting. And it's before you for approval.
Do I have any committee comment? Commissioner Riley.
Under public expression, my name is listed. I'm a committee member, so I think I probably should be removed from that.
Any other committee comment? Public expression? Do I have a motion on the floor to accept the minutes as amended?
I'll make a motion to, I'm sorry, I left it up. Approve the minutes as amended.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you. I wasn't here. Then you abstain? Perfect. Agenda item 3B, discussion and possible action regarding expenditure report on Measure B tax funds. Controller Weir, please.
Thank you. Before you is a spreadsheet titled Mendocino County Measure B Funds, Mental Health Treatment Act. Looks like this. This is our life-to-date revenues and expenditures that are being held in a special revenue fund outside of the general fund. They're restricted funds. They can only be used for purposes that are approved by this committee and the board for the Mental Health Treatment Act. We'll start at the top. We currently have about 20 months of tax proceeds in the Treasury at this point, and the amount column totals $13,921,948 to date. I've also given you the two columns to the right of that, which attempt to estimate the minimum 25% for operations and maximum 75% for facilities. So that's just for your information. We'll drop down to expenses. You can see all of the expenses that have happened to date through the end of January in this case. So life-to-date expenses total $523,573. You have life-to-date interest earnings on this fund. You get to keep the interest that's earned. It's $165,476. So currently, our fund balance in the Measure B fund is $13,563,851. That's my report. Thank you.
Any committee, yes, Commissioner Riley.
I'd like to request clarification on a couple of the expense items. Nash Gonzalez consulting time down there in the amount of about $7,000, and then the Verizon wireless charge for $50. Just curious if I could get additional explanation as to what those are for.
I believe those are expenses that have been incurred to facilitate the hiring of the architect, and also Nash was working on the CEQA report, and Verizon Wireless would be a cell phone charge for the project manager for the Measure B program.
Thank you.
Commissioner Myrtle.
What's Sarah Riley? Does Sarah Riley have a monthly consulting fee or an hourly consulting fee, and what is she working on? Oh, sorry about that. I'll repeat that. Sarah Riley, does she have a open-ended contract with us, or is it an hourly contract, and what is she doing for us?
Sarah Duquette, Deputy CEO. Sally Riley is on contract with the county and provides us services regarding procurement, and she has been utilized during this process as we move forward with the architect and the CRT. And she charges an hourly rate.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, would you like a motion to accept the?
Not yet, please, thank you. Yes.
Can we get a more detailed report on some of these, this item? So from, like, there's questions being asked about Sarah Riley's involvement and value add. Can we get a more detailed report on those expenses or the charges?
Sarah Duquette, Executive Office. Yes, we can bring that back at the next meeting.
Thank you.
Any other further community comment, or excuse me, committee comment? Any comment from the public? This is an informational item, does not need a motion. Thank you very much. Moving on to agenda item 3C, discussion and possible action regarding update on Measure B project manager and potential need for additional Measure B project staff support. First of all, as a personal comment, I would like to thank the executive office and the members of the Measure B committee who sat in on interviews for expediting this process. And we have our new project manager sitting 2 seats to my right, Allison Bailey. Thank you. And I am sorry, Commissioner Angelo.
Thank you, Chair Muschetti. Yes, this item actually was a combined item that was coming forward from myself and also from committee member Jed Diamond. And unfortunately, Jed is ill and he's not here. This item speaks to the update on the project manager. And of course, we hired most recently, this is Allison Bailey's 3rd day. And there was a committee an interview committee made of the chair, the vice chair, myself, member Allman, who did the interviews. And so we had posted the position. We had 9 candidates in 8 days, and we took the top 3 candidates. And I'm happy to say that Ms. Bailey is our new Measure B project manager. Before I actually get into this item, I would like to give Allison a couple minutes to talk a little bit about yourself. The whole committee and certainly the public doesn't know you, and we will be doing a press release. But at this time, Allison, maybe you'd like to say a few words.
Sure, thank you. First, I'd like to say that I am totally honored to be here and to serve our community, our Mendocino County in total. And some of you know me from previous iterations and also currently. I am absolutely a mental health advocate. Have worked in mental health for several years. Anna Shaw gave me my first mental health position at the drop-in center there in Fort Bragg on the coast. I was completely green and just had done some volunteer work, and I have been an advocate ever since. I also have a broad business background. I have a company that I started a few years ago called Edify BPO. It's a business processing outsourcing service. So I know quite a bit about how organizations work and startups, long-term, things of that sort. So it's a very kind of serendipitous sort of meeting of skill sets. As far as this project goes, it's something that I feel like I have been kind of unknowingly working towards for my entire adult life, and I'm so glad that I get to use it to serve you. And if you're interested in talking about ideas or just want to get to know me better, please do approach me. I will have office hours, and I will post them just for in general if you want to come in and talk. And those hours will be over the lunch break, so that if you do have your lunchtime off, you can come see me, and I will be there to talk with you. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Allison. So with that, getting back to the item, this item is actually a request that I am making for additional staff for the project manager. And being that I have been on this committee from the inception of this committee and watched what we did and the amount of staff time that it's taken, whether it was staff from the sheriff's office initially for the first year, and then staff from the executive office that you still see sitting here. I think that one of the comments that was made some time ago, maybe almost a year ago, by some of the community members about this position being high level. It's true, the position is high level. We have a lot of different projects and major expectations of this project manager, not necessarily whether it's Allison or whether it was Isabel before Allison. There's a lot of work that needs to be done. If you look at the training center, Sarah Duquette is still involved and will be involved until the training center is open. Along with that, we now have the architect contract, and there is a lot of work, whether it's scheduling meetings, working with the architects, making sure they stay on task, whatever. We have a major contract there to manage. And then, of course, looking at the operational feasibility study that we still do not have in place. If you look at those projects, and for those of you that work on government projects, any one of those projects is enough for one person. And so we have all of this under the project manager. I believe that the project manager needs an analyst, someone to actually help them analyze all the data that we hope to bring in, and then also a staff assistant of some sort. So what I'm requesting here, and this is definitely flexible, but I do believe that the Measure B project manager would benefit from having a staff assistant and also an administrative analyst, data analyst, senior analyst, whatever we want to call it. And I think that, you know, when we started, what we tried to do as government was we tried to keep the costs down. We tried to keep administrative costs down. And so the county absorbed. It wasn't like the work wasn't being done. The work was being done, but the county absorbed those costs. It's not even about absorbing the costs right now. What it's about is not having county staff available to do this work. So at this point, my recommendation and my request from this committee is to seriously consider giving the project manager some support and allowing the project manager to hire an analyst to work with her and also a staff assistant that would function essentially as a secretary of some sort or a coordinator of some sort. So that is my request, Chairman.
Thank you. Mark, your pen was up first.
What would the job descriptions be of the analyst and/or administrative assistant?
You know, I would actually, I mean, I certainly could jump in, but they would not be working for me. They would be working for Allison. So if Allison would like to answer that first, that would be fine, or if she would like to defer to me, either way.
Oh, I'd be happy to. The analyst, for the most part, would be somebody who could do kind of an in-house feasibility study, so we wouldn't have per project. To make sure that it was something that we could afford and that also would, you know, exist after we opened it for on into the future successfully. This person would also be able to calculate risk and do the risk management process of the project through each stage, each phase of the project itself, so that we could continue to learn about what went well, what didn't go so great, how can we protect ourselves better and make it faster, maybe even spend less in the future. I could do that as well, but it will take me much longer. It would be much easier on me and the project in general if we had somebody else dedicated to that. And the data collection would probably be more robust as a result. As far as the assistant, more than anything, that person would be my safety net. He or she would be the person who scheduled things, made sure that that everything was on task. Just really do kind of the macro, wraparound part of each project, so that if I'm doing many things at once, that he or she could say, hey, Allison, pay attention to this. This is coming up, and that's really I think the two things I need as far as support and information.
Commissioner Allman.
Thank you. A couple things, and I know that there will be people in the public saying, oh my God, there goes our money, of Measure B going down the tube. And we are in month 22, looking at Lloyd here, month 22 of collecting the revenue. And really and truly, we've done all this without having project managers or assistants. And so we didn't start out this project, when Measure B was passed, we didn't say, oh good, let's go hire someone. We basically tried to go down this road saying, all right, we're collecting the money, now where are we going to go? And we went through the Kemper report, and we're going through Knock and Lewis, through the architect and so forth. And as a person who's worked in government, certainly you have to have the support to get the project done. However, I don't want this to be a government plan where these jobs are going to last forever, because our 5 years of collecting the half-cent sales tax is very critical, and that's the brick and mortar part of what our mission is. And when Allison was interviewed, we clearly spoke about that. This is not a forever job. This is a job that is going to be very tough for the next 3, possibly 4 years while we get our projects done. But I hope I'm still on the committee at that point. We're not going to have a project manager once the major projects are done. There's not going to be a need to. So while I don't know of everything about the analyst, if we could keep an analyst busy for 48 hours a week, I don't know the answer to that. You would know it better than I do. I certainly see the need to have an assistant with you to help with the basic responsibilities of your job so you can focus on the project manager part that we talked about in the interview. And when you did your introduction today, to be quite honest, I was impressed in the interview by your ability to manage projects. And that didn't come out in your thing today, but I want the public to know that you are a project manager. You know how to manage projects. So I will support most of this part here, but to the public, this is not a boondoggle. This is not going to be just another couple of cush government jobs made for, friends and family. These are for people who are going to be hardworking Measure B project managers and as office assistants, and hopefully at least a part-time analyst. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Commissioner Allman. Commissioner O'Reilly?
Thank you. I support Member Allman's comments. And I also would like to express appreciation for the Executive Office, who has provided extensive support to the Measure B Committee throughout this process. My question, and I don't know if there's an easy answer to this, but there's a learning curve to working in government, and I have a real concern about hiring 3 new people in government and not still needing to lean on executive staff for purchasing and bureaucratic matters and political matters and things like that. So along the lines of what Member Allman is saying, I would support the need for 2 of these 3 positions. Obviously the project manager, and I think I'm leaning towards the admin staff rather than the analyst. It doesn't mean we can't add it in the future if there's a demonstrated need, but I think the higher level support is still going to be, we're still going to be looking toward executive office staff for some of that work. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm not sure the executive office can step out at this. Maybe a more efficient way is to bill their time to Measure B.
Thank you. Commissioner Myrtle?
Who's providing guidance to you on what the next step, what you're going to do tomorrow, what you're doing next week, what's your contact, what's the primary purpose of Knox and Lewis' first point of attack? Who's providing that guidance?
Well, primarily the executive office. Sarah has been working with the architect. Cass has been doing a lot for this committee. Carmel is on the committee and understands a lot about what it is that's gone on. So, and also I intend and have started to meet with each member of this committee one-on-one to talk about perspectives, outcomes, things of that sort. So I'm going to be pulling from a lot of different stakeholders in order to create a more of a singular vision.
Thank you. Is that Commissioner Ferranta?
Hi, I'm new to this process. One of the things the Board of Supervisors is always asking for is a business plan, and so is the community. And so eventually, is that going to be part of the project manager's job description as well as we go along?
Yes, I absolutely intend to do that. The measure itself is, kind of a more of a broader macro view, but each individual place that we open, I don't just want to, open some empty shell and be like, okay, now do something with it. It's, we need to make sure that it functions for the community.
Any further, Commissioner?
If everyone's done, I'd like to make a couple comments. I appreciate Shannon's comments and yes to everything you're saying. I think the difference is that right now, Cass is the executive coordinator for the executive office. So not only does she support my office, but she supports the Board of Supervisors. Sarah Duquette is a deputy CEO who has more than a full-time job working as my deputy. And so we are very happy to be sitting here with Measure B and doing the work. And there's no pushback from the executive office staff, just as there wasn't any pushback from Sheriff Allman when Sheriff Allman was the sheriff and had his staff doing this. Here's the difference. without a second person or without an analyst, the purchasing and contracting is under me. So, that's our staff, that's our general services staff. So we can actually use the training center as an example. When Tom was working on trying to get that training center together, I would like to say, if you're okay with this, some of the frustration was trying to get things done in a timely manner and getting them done. And that was because there wasn't dedicated staff. Do we have purchasing and contracting staff? Of course we do. Is Measure B their number one priority? No, it's not. And so what you have is sometimes you have to wait in line. If there is dedicated staff to Measure B, they actually could work a little quicker once they're trained. If you see what I wrote in here, I said that the project manager would be in my office for 6 months. And the goal is to orient the project manager and whatever staff the project manager has, get them as a cohesive team. They also would be supporting this committee. So they would be working with my staff, certainly Sarah Cass, myself. We're not going to just walk away. Janelle, who's not here, has done a tremendous amount of work. And my hope would be that inside of 6 months, they're definitely a standalone. They don't need to be in my office anymore. But to have such major projects with just one person, even though my staff is quite competent, the time just isn't there. And every time there's a board meeting, there's more directives that come forward, not only to my office, but to Christian's office. So we have full-time jobs, we have directives, and then we have Measure B. And let me say this, I am very happy to be sitting here, and I consider the Measure B initiative definitely a priority for my office. But at some point, something has to give. And if we want to keep a project manager, we're on number 2 now. If we want to keep a project manager, we need to give her some dedicated staff.
Any other commissioner comment? Public comment, please.
I have a question. I'm really confused. I'm confused because there's this talk about.
I'm sorry, your name for the record.
Oh, Freddie Long, sorry. I'm double dipping here. I'm confused when I hear the talk of architect. So we've heard that the decision has not been made yet about where the facility will be. But if there's an architect, it implies that you've already decided on building a facility because of $500,000, which is nothing. The money will go much further if you look at the Willits Hospital. Old Howard Hospital. So I'm concerned, does that mean that the decision has been made about where the location will be?
I'm sorry, but this is not the agenda item that we're speaking on.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
So,
well, the architect.
but it will be, yes, it is coming. It's further along on the
Thank you.
on the agenda.
All right. Thank
Sorry about that.
I'm Sherry Ebiam. I don't question the use of Measure B funds for these positions, but to me there's a broader issue here. I haven't seen a full budget plan for the Measure B monies. In the Kemper report, in its strategic budget plan on pages 44 and 45, it includes an expansion of programs as part of the use of Measure B monies. The expansion improves expansion of support services, expanding the reach of full service partnerships to more seriously mentally ill people by dedicated annual funding, pending a proposal from Behavioral Health Services Department. It includes an expansion of substance use disorder treatment.
So, excuse me, I'm sorry.
No, I'm getting back to this.
You're getting back to
ties
this.
into
Okay,
it.
okay,
Yeah.
perfect.
The plan to be developed by Behavioral Health, an expansion of in-county supportive housing services for mentally ill persons, also pending a proposal from Behavioral Health. Has the Measure B committee discussed this expansion of programs? Has Behavioral Health offered any proposals to the committee? Who will determine the cost of these programs? The Board of Supervisors approved a contract up to $3.3 million for architects to design various facilities. What criteria are being used in this design? Were the architects given a dollar amount to fall within that their design would have to meet? Who provides those details to the architects? From the Kemper report, the use of Measure B funds is directed toward facilities and an expansion of programs. If the Measure B committee approves a facility expense, it may mean less for an expansion of programs, or vice versa. More for an expansion of programs, less for facilities. Without a full picture of all costs for all proposals, how does the Measure B committee weigh and measure proposals? This being a proposal. How does the Measure B committee go about making decisions regarding items that have a cost component to them without a full picture of the budget? And that's the connection to this. And I heard Sheriff Allman, ex-Sheriff Allman, talk about, you know, we're not going to spend, that there's some issue with spending Measure B monies here and there. And I'm not implying that this is a here and there expense at all. My point is, how do you make decisions without the full picture? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments. Anybody else? Public comment? Any further commission comment? Yes, Commissioner Allman.
I just want to respond to that by saying, because there hasn't been a lot of county staff that's been able to prepare these business plans and so forth, we're now in a situation where we're hiring the people who are going to put together not just the plans that you're asking for, but the plans that we've been asking for 22 months. And so there's going to be accountability for these jobs, because we can't build what we don't know what we need. Of course we have the Kemper project, or Kemper report, and we have the director of mental health here and so forth. But the project manager, which is that's the agenda item that we're on right now, the project manager and the other employees are going to be able to adequately present it to the committee and ultimately to the public so that we understand where we're going. We don't need a roadmap. We have a roadmap, but the specific projects that need to be accomplished, there's not government staff that say, let's go do that. And in 50 years from now, if we don't have the right people now, then we can look in a rearview mirror if we're still alive and say, we squandered a whole bunch of money. So we're trying to spend it appropriately, but we have to get the right people in the jobs to answer to you and to answer to us that we're doing the right thing. Your points are well taken. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Allman. Anyone else? Is there an entertainment for a motion on the floor?
I'd like to ask a question of the project manager. As I previously stated, I support 2 positions at this time, with reconsideration for adding the 3rd position at a later time. So I'd like to know from Ms. Bailey, which of the 2 positions, the staff assistant or the analyst, do you think are the most essential for your support?
Yeah, that's a tough question on my 3rd day, but I'll do my best. I think as far as, essential to the project, the analyst. Somebody who would make life easier on me would be the assistant. But I don't necessarily need life to be easy on me. I need the project to be good and to move at a pace that actually works for the community. So if I have to choose, I would say the analyst.
Commissioner Myrtle.
You mentioned the analyst was going to be doing the feasibility studies for the county. Aren't we hiring the architect to do the feasibility studies?
Again, it's my 3rd day.
Yeah, so.
The architect could do the feasibility studies for the buildings. I do not know the scope of the feasibility study as far as what the architect would offer us. Really, I think that the feasibility study that I'm looking for and that I think would benefit the community most is long-term. You know, do we have the staff? You know, how much is it going to cost monthly? You know, if the community, you know, the population grows, what does that look like? Things of that sort that will not just, you know, kind of be on the face of the project, but long-term.
Commissioner Angelo?
I've been here 13 years. So 3 days, 13 years. Let me jump in on this one. I appreciate Allison's really critical thinking, and what Tom said earlier is correct. You know, as far as having project management and being a good thinker, I've been impressed the few times that we've actually met. But I think when we do a project, whether we do an RFP or we do a sole source and we bring somebody in, there's a lot. It's not just, okay, well, this looks really good, and so we're going to hire them. There is a lot of thinking and a lot of work that goes into looking at who that contractor is, vendor, whatever. And so I look at looking at feasibility as just like what we did with the architect contract. I mean, there was a lot of work, and some of you, and Mark, you were on that sole source committee, so you know that. But there was a lot of work that was done by the staff. And I would see that type of work, since we're just starting out on these projects, being done by Allison and whoever her second in command is. What I would also like to say is that, you know, we show up here, or most of you show up here, you know, on Wednesdays, and you sit down and this room is all ready to go. And then you all leave and the room gets taken down. And somebody has to do that. And right now, it is executive office staff. And it's not about not wanting to do it, it's about really not having the time. So I realize, you know, having a project manager at the price, the salary and benefits that we have, and then a second in command. But I would also encourage this committee to take a look at how this committee happens. So what we do is there has to be somebody, and really it will be Allison at this point, to put the agenda together and then to work with the chair and the vice chair, because what you voted in at the last meeting was that there would be, you know, these meetings ahead of time, which we do anyway. But, you know, so Allison would be working on the agenda, putting out an email, gathering that information, getting that information, putting the agenda together, working with the chair and the vice chair, making sure that those agenda items all not only meet Brown Act, but make sense. And I'm going to tell you that not every agenda item, whether it's this meeting or a Board of Supervisors meeting, those agenda items don't always make sense. And there's a lot of work, and Shannon would know this too, there's a lot of work that goes into putting that together. And then you have the meeting to make sure you have an agenda meeting, and then you have this meeting, and then you have to do the minutes, and then you have to do the agenda items and all the follow-up and take those items and prepare them for the board meeting. So, you know, what I'm trying to explain is that things just don't happen magically. There's a lot of steps that occur even to have this meeting happen. So, you know, I would just ask that maybe there be some consideration for a .25 clerical assistant. And, you know, at this point, I'm not pulling my staff out. You're right with that. I said Sarah will be in this until the training center is open. Once the training center is open, Sarah's out. And Cass will be here as long as we need her. But again, you know, there's other activities that staff does. So I would just ask, if you go with Allison and then you go with a second, that you consider maybe a .25 of a clerical, and that actually is to support this committee.
You can make that a motion if you want.
Could you clarify what you mean by .25 for the group?
Yeah, you know, obviously I put in for a full-time person, and so maybe we don't need a full-time person, a half-time person, which would be 20 hours a week, or if we look at .25, someone for 10 hours a week, you know, and maybe we don't really even need that much, but you have to have somebody that's going to follow up with the actions and
Is
also
that a new
put the agenda.
hire, or is that allocating an existing staff person?
If we allocated an existing staff person, I don't know who that would be, because I cannot afford to have Cass sitting here every month and doing that work. So, you know, it would be possibly hiring someone at 10 hours a week. I don't know. You know, and I don't know of anyone, you know, we've talked about this. This is not the only Citizens Advisory Committee that we're working on, and there's another one that doesn't have staff support either. So I honestly think we'd have to hire someone at 10 hours a week or, you know, 40 hours a month or whatever to do this. I don't think that we have the depth within the organization, certainly not within my office. If we went to planning or we went to Health and Human Services, I've certainly talked with Janine and Tammy Moss-Chandler about this. They don't have the depth either. Remember, we have a hiring freeze.
Any other commissioner comment?
Was that a motion?
No.
I
Can I entertain a motion at this time?
I could make a motion. You want, okay. All right, I would like to make a motion that, that the Measure B committee recommend to the Board of Supervisors that the Measure B project manager hire 1, an analyst, and 2, a part-time staff assistant up to 25% time, so it'd be 0.25 position. And I would like that to be a recommendation to the Board of Supervisors.
Do I have a second?
Almond, second.
Any further commissioner discussion? Yes.
Are these job classifications that have listed dollar amounts for how much they cost?
You have it in here. If you look
Okay,
at your agenda item.
I missed
It's
that.
agenda item 3C. If you look in the background, in the 4th paragraph down, I say that the estimated yearly salary and benefits for
I see
staff. See it? Okay, yeah.
Okay,
So that
thank
would be
you.
it. And these classifications, we do think are the most appropriate for this position at this point in time. And I would say this, that given that we would be talking about a 0.25 staff assistant, that may be a position that is internal, or it may even be a contracted position. But if the Measure B committee votes this up, what we would look at is no more than 25% of that salary and benefit rate.
Any other further commissioner comment? I have pins up.
One quick
Yes,
thing.
sir.
When the media skews us on this, I would ask that they put a paragraph in there that we're looking to hire the right person. So criticize us all you want, but if there's someone out there in Mendocino County who wants to be an analyst for this position, for this Measure B, we encourage you to watch the county flyers and attend and apply. Thank you.
Any other further comment? Could we please have the motion reread?
The motion on the floor is the Measure B committee recommend to the Board of Supervisors that the Measure B project manager hire 1 analyst and 1 part-time staff assistant at 0.25 FTE.
All those in favor? Any nays? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Thank you very much. Moving on to agenda item 3D, discussion and possible action regarding scheduling details of meetings on the coast in Willits for the 2020 calendar. We tabled this because we wanted to figure out which dates were going to go where. Commissioner Myrtle, have you talked over in Fort Bragg?
Yes, the 22nd of July will work, and we're getting the paperwork filled out now.
Perfect. And in talking to Vice Chair Jed Diamond, he said either date would work for Willits. He would make it work. So any community comment? Any commissioner comment? The 22nd, July 22nd in Fort Bragg. Willits will be September 20, I should know that right off the top of my head. 25th, I believe. 3rd, thank you. Okay, community comment? Sorry. Not according to Jed. Okay. No, he did not. But he said any date would work, he would make it work. And we'll find not I. Someone will find a location. Community comment. I'm sorry. Town hall. Sorry about that, my bad. Yes, please.
Sarah Duquette, Executive Office, we will identify a location that has enough space for the meeting and report out at a future meeting.
So, any other community comment? Did you have community?
I can't get there from here. I just want to know if you'll publish the calendar on
We'll finalize it today.
When will it be published?
That's beyond my payment schedule.
On the Measure B website.
Can I entertain a motion on the floor to accept the calendar?
A motion to accept?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions?
And can I ask that it's available next month at our meeting and it's posted on the Measure B website? Thank you.
Okay. Moving on to agenda item 3E, discussion and update regarding approval of request from Mental Health Treatment Act Citizens Advisory Committee for Board of Supervisors to direct County Council to conduct legal evaluation, research, analysis, and assessment of Adventist Health Partnership legality, including restriction, necessary control, implications, and compliance regarding the possible use of public tax dollars to fund operations of a private entity.
This item is a carry-over item from the last meeting, and we have Acting County Counsel Christian Curtis here to provide a verbal update.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. My apologies, I have it not quite done yet, although we are quite close at this stage. I will credit the committee for have asked some very good questions and the ones that have required a bit of research on some of the nuance, but I expect to have an answer shortly.
Thank you. Any committee comment?
Well,
Any?
I do.
Oh, sorry.
So, and thanks, Christian. I know you're working hard on it, but we only meet once a month, and so I would like for what your opinion, when you get this opinion, that if you get it before the next month, that we don't wait until the next meeting to put it out. It could be dispersed to the committee members, and at such time it would become public information on what your opinion is. Would that work, the time frame?
So I will say roughly yes in terms of the time frame. I do want to clarify the request as it was drafted by the committee and sent to the board was for me to issue the opinion to the board, and since it is initially attorney-client privilege, I do think I need the board's authority to have that waived before it becomes public. My intent, frankly, would be to put a consent item on the March 10th calendar so that they could have the opinion at that time. They could waive privilege and then make it available, and that should be, I think, sufficiently in advance of the next Measure B meeting.
So even if you had the answer today, we wouldn't get it because the Board of Supervisors officially asked you, and you have to give the answer to them.
That's the way the request was framed. That's the direction I had. So yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Riley? He put down his little pen.
Sorry, it's my recollection that the other part of this item was there was an expectation that we were going to receive a more complete proposal from Adventist Health. And so my question is, have we received that yet?
Chair Muschetti, I could cover that when we get
Oh,
further
yes, that's
on
the
to
next,
another
that's the next
item.
agenda item, I believe. Any other committee comment? Any public comment? Oh, moving forward. Yes. Sorry, Josephine.
My name is Josephine Silva, and I'm very disappointed that this wasn't here for the rest of the public to hear before it got to the Board of Supervisors. some of the questions I have as to what you would be talking about, the legality of it, is that I heard, and I do not know if it's true, that the Seventh-day Adventist hospitals are a critical care facility. And maybe Ace can talk to that. And that the funding comes, I guess, for Medi-Cal up front, and or a certain amount does. And that the funding for these kinds of PUF units would not be that way, and that might make some difficulties financially. Also, that the staffing would have to be separate, and that might be another legal issue. In addition to separate staffing, it seems to me that you would have a far more economical situation for clinical staffing if all facilities were on one site. And not only that, that the food and janitorial and all the other kinds of staffing involved in these facilities could also be used all on one site. But what we're looking at is having two separate PUF units, and I would think that that would be far more expensive. And I do not know if this is on what you're looking at or not, but it certainly would impinge upon whether or not whether it's legal for us to use public funds in this way. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other further?
A quick comment. And I don't know where it goes on this agenda, but timing seems to be critical because, as I understand it, it's possible that St. Helena Hospital will be losing its 25 beds. At least that's the plan right now. And so we will not have we need those beds quickly. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other further public comment? Any further commissioner comment? Moving on. Agenda item 3F, update regarding December 10th, 2019 Board of Supervisors meeting regarding direction to perform an operational feasibility study of proposed Measure B funded facilities.
Thank you, Chair Muschetti. Yes. Okay, so actually getting back to Shannon's question, this item is twofold. One, this is the proposal from the Adventist Health. And we are working on that. The Adventist, I've talked with Jason numerous times, and actually Dr. Barish and I will be meeting after this meeting. So we should have something, hopefully within the next 30 days, I would think. And there have been delays. Everybody's busy, and but I have confidence that we will get something from Adventist. That is part of this operational feasibility study. It's not the whole operational feasibility study. And while this speaks to the board's request, it also is the request that's come out of Measure B, that we actually look at what is the cost of operations, right, for the 3 different treatment modalities. We have a contractor consultant right now that we are working with in hopes of getting a proposal for them to do this work. And again, I'll just repeat this for those that didn't hear. The question was, can we go back to Lee Kemper? Lee Kemper is not available, not interested in working with us on this. And so at this point, we do have another subject matter expert that we're looking at. So that's my report on this today. I don't have anything definite that I can tell you. And hopefully by next month, we will have a proposal from Adventist that we could look at. We'll have the legal opinion that will match that Adventist proposal. And I will be able to tell you that we have a consultant on board to do the actual operational feasibility. So thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Angelo. Any other commissioner comment, Mark?
Forgive me if I misunderstand, but we passed a resolution to have an RFP back in September to solicit operations of a CRT, CSU, and a PUF unit. Is that what this is?
No.
Okay,
This
so-
is, well, I guess I'm sorry,
Okay,
I'm
well,
thinking that,
I
maybe,
mean, I can
because if
read
I
it to
missed
you in the
something, I
minutes.
need to know if I
Yeah.
missed something, but,
Well, in the minutes, we passed, it was passed unanimously to write an RFP for the operations or like contractor or institution to provide proposals to operate a CRT, CSU, and a PUF.
so Mark,
That
I'll go back and look at that recommendation. I think that given this board's direction, it may be the same thing, my apologies for not remembering,
Okay.
but what we wanted to do, you know, certainly the direction from the board was to check with Kemper, which we did, and there wasn't direction to do an RFP. It was to find an entity to do the operational feasibility study. So
All right.
I'll go back and look at the
Should I put that
recommendation.
on the agenda for next week or next month to address what we'd already passed?
You
Or how do we follow up on that?
If we don't have anybody by March, we will do an RFP. By the time we have this meeting in March, if we don't have an entity, a consultant, subject matter expert to do this work, we will do an RFP. Our hope was that we would find a consultant to do this without having to do a full-on RFP process.
So a consultant to solicit operators?
You want the same thing? No.
Okay.
What you're saying that you wanted an RFP to do, I'm saying I want to do without an RFP. It's the same end goal, it's just a different process.
Okay.
And I'm saying if my process fails, we'll do your process. But I have to look at the minutes.
Our process.
Right, but I'll look at the minutes and see what the agenda item that was passed by this committee was. All right, thank you.
Okay, any other further commissioner comment? Any public comment?
Yes. First of all, I really want to thank you so much.
Oh, I'm sorry, name for the
Oh,
record.
sorry, Linda Posner. And I am very both impressed and disturbed. Today, I'm sorry that things are taking so long. Right now, we're looking at possibly 9 years before actually somebody gets to get treated. We have a lot of talk, a lot of effort, a lot of talent, a lot of crosstalk, and it concerns me because so far today, I've heard mostly from 2 people, and that disturbs me because I want to hear from all of you. I want to hear you support each other, to disagree, to keep us informed, but I just hear a lot of talk by 1 or 2, maybe 3 people here on this committee, and that concerns me. I've worked for 20, 30 years as a chaplain and as a counselor, and there's a lot of people in need. So to quote a brilliant person, I want to say, if not now, when, by Hillel.
Thank you. Any other further community comment? Hearing none. We'll move on to agenda item 3H, update regarding California Health Facilities Finance Authority, CHFFA. Oh, see, I like to just skip stuff. Agenda item 3G, discussion and possible action regarding update on status of the architect. My apologies.
Zerticat Executive Office. On February 11th and 12th, staff had a kickoff meeting with Nocton Lewis for phase 1 of the architect contract, which is focused on Crisis Residential Treatment Center, which we are trying to get up and running by November 1st, 2021, to meet the CHFFA deadline. So the first meeting focused on project understanding and expectations, design team approach, the organizational structure, and visioning. Day 2 of our kickoff focused on the crisis residential treatment room programming and the starting on the various layouts for the Orchard Avenue site. We will be meeting next on March 4th to look at a number of the CRT designs. We're also in the process of setting up site tours for CRTs that are a similar size to us around the same time with the contractor.
Thank you, Sarah. Any commissioner comment, Mr. Myrtle? Ms. Riley?
I'm not sure if my question belongs under this item or the next item, but because you said the next meeting will discuss possible CRT designs, my question is regarding, we had some discussion at the last meeting as to whether the CRT could be combined with a crisis stabilization unit also on the same site, and there was some speculation that maybe it could, and I think we were going to ask the CHFFA board. So I want to know if that's still a possibility, and if we need to cover that under the next item instead, I'm fine with that.
That,
I can cover it under this item, but
Thank you. So we did talk about on day 2 when we met with Nocht and Lewis to look at really the size of the CRT and what it would need to do, looking at a 6 to 8 bed facility to start, but having the ability to expand to 10 beds if that we had capacity that needed that within our community. As we look at other crisis residential treatment facilities throughout our community, we looked at what could also be built on that site if that was something we chose to do as a committee. We could not fit a PUF on that facility. That's not, I mean, what they're saying is what would be left after building the CRT wouldn't be big enough for what we would probably need to do a psychiatric health facility, but there would be room to do some additional facility that was similar size to a CRT. So they said crisis stabilization, possible board and care facility, something within that. When you look at that plot, what could fit within those, that what would be left.
So that's part of what they're exploring?
They will continue to explore the CSU as part of their feasibility is to look at a psychiatric health facility and a crisis stabilization and where would be the best to build that and what that would cost. So they're still looking at that. But one of the things we asked in that meeting was if we built the CRT, is there still room on this plot of land to potentially look at other options for that? And they said yes.
Sorry, can I ask a follow-up question? So are you describing a separate standalone facility, or which sounds like it would be more expensive than incorporating a CSU into the CRT?
At this time, we were talking about 2 separate facilities. Nothing's been rolled out. It was a question that I just had with what could we do, and that's not to say you couldn't build onto it, but I wanted to know what was left in room-wise after we looked at what we were looking at to make the CRT.
Thank you.
any further commissioner comment? Public comment?
Is this where my agenda?
We think so. It's either this one or the
Thank
next
you.
one, so we're close.
Thank you. I don't come to many of these this sort of meeting. Yeah, back to the architect. Oh, Freddie
name.
Long. I'm still Freddie Long. So, sounds to me like the architect, like it's a done deal, the Ukiah. It's not. Why are we hiring an architect to look at that? I don't understand. I mean, is it going to look at Howard Hospital as well, or not? Okay. Thank you very much. That's what I wanted to know. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I really quickly respond?
Oh, I suppose.
We don't know what we don't know. And because we put out basically a request for RFPs for someone to respond to a crisis residential, crisis stabilization, and psychiatric health facility, and we got no complete proposals back, we went to the plan B of getting an architect to say, all right, where could we go, and what would be the possible cost of where we could go, so we can make a correct step. So no, we haven't, a decision has not been made that it's going to be in Ukiah, or at Old Howard Hospital, or on the coast at Redwood Coast Hospital. But we have to find out what the approximate costs are before we go there. So.
Yes, Commissioner. No,
So
sorry.
I want to make sure that we're clear that Tom is right except for the crisis residential treatment. So I want to make clear that we do know that the agreement with CHFFA is that the crisis residential treatment does have to be built on Orchard Street, or we do lose the $500,000. All other facilities, that is correct.
Thank you for the clarification. And community comment, please. 1, 2, 3.
Hi, I'm Emmy Good, and I'm really concerned about that Orchard Street property. And I don't know how many of you have actually gone down there and kind of visualized the space that is there existing right now. And the fact that they're looking for a crisis residential facility, that's the 24-hour one. I'm not sure, on all these letters, I've got a PHF, that's the PUF unit, that's only the coast seems to want that one. There's also a CSU, which is the stabilization unit, and there's an MHRC, which is, stay up to 6 months. There's an adult residential facility, and I don't know whether these other ones are ones that you're even considering in your evaluations, but what's the CRT?
Crisis residential treatment.
But it's not any one of these that's described. So is that, the crisis residential facility is the CRT? It's not a CRF? Is the CRF
Dr.
the
Miller
same as
could
this?
speak better to
So
that.
it's called a crisis residential treatment facility, so that's why you might see CRF, but it's actually CRT, and there's
Okay,
actually
so the
short-term,
CRT
long-term, yes.
Is the same as the CRF?
Correct.
Okay. Look at the Orchard property. Really look at it and see if that's where you would want to be, be in a 3-story building in the middle of kind of a little shopping center thing. I just don't see it as being the place where you're going to want to put some place that, you want a positive place where you're going to put these people, Please take another look at Howard.
Thank you. And excuse me, Commissioner.
Can I respond to that for a minute? When at the Behavioral Health Advisory Board that I sit on with Janine, she actually created a vision for what that site will look like that had a lot of good positive attributes about it, and asked us if what we thought about it, and her vision for what it should look like with the architect. We did approve and really liked and thought that as the project goes on, you guys will, that it'll be a good place, and it'll feel nice for people to be there.
Thank you, Commissioner. Yes, sir. Name, please.
You'll get it. Jonathan Davis.
That's for me to remember.
I know. I just always confused as to where this facility on Orchard has been proposed. Has that been established? And is that the CRT facility? I just want to know, approximate address of where that is on Orchard.
621 or
I believe it's
631?
631, and it's,
Yeah.
if you know where the old CalWorks building was, people kind of know the old CalWorks building. The post office is here, and then there's that vacant lot, and then there's a building behind the vacant lot. It's the vacant lot that's right up front.
Post office.
Post office.
Yes, it's right
Yeah.
next to the post office. Sherry?
I'm Sherry Ebiam. So I heard a committee member saying that you're waiting for the design and the cost. And again, I come back to my initial place of, what if the architect comes up with a design that costs $10 million and it's way beyond what the Measure B funds can support? As opposed to telling the architect, create a design that falls, we've got up to this much money to spend. Create a design that meets that. I just worry about just coming to a place where the committee will say at some point down the road, we don't have the funds for that anymore. They're gone. And I would hate to see that situation arise only through a lack of planning.
Thank you. Any other? Yes, John.
Joe Bradley, Little River. I think there's some confusion, and I don't know if it's me or a lot of other people. I hear rustling back there. My understanding was we hired this firm to give us information on all the different options we were looking at and give us how much they might cost, what the feasibility is of each of those, including Howard. And I keep hearing people thinking we're spending money on a design. And I know we have to use Orchard or lose money, so that we're kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place. But we're supposed to be also getting other information from this group. Am I confused or okay? Because I hear rumbling and I don't think everybody's getting that. So thank you.
Thank you. Yes, Commissioner Allman.
So I also hear rumbling, certainly, Joe, on non-Measure B meeting days. And this is one of those damned if you do and damned if you don't, because we're trying to get an approximate cost. And to your question about have we told them how much money we have, we are giving these architects 100% of the information there is on Measure B. We're giving them everything they need to know, whether it's coming from Department of Mental Health, of what our patient status is, our numbers, the money that's coming in. We don't know the cost of running it yet, but we're working on that one. So please don't think that we're going in this with our head in the sand. We're giving them all this information, and we're saying this is what we need from real professionals. You know, Dr. Miller knows what she needs. And then when we get that data, that's when we'll have a great big public meeting. Probably it will not be held in this room because there won't be enough people, where big decisions will be made. But the frustration that you're feeling is the frustration we're feeling. But until we have the black and white figures, we can't make the decisions that need to be made.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Linda Posner, I have one question. How did we, and I'm going to take this upon myself too because I feel I'm part of you learning a lot today, how did we get stuck between a rock and a hard place? You saw, it was just said. Oh, I thought I heard you say we are stuck between a rock and a hard place. Good, I'm glad. Let's not do that.
Josephine.
Josephine Silva. I certainly agree with Sherry.
She did.
And I think it's really important to give direction, as this is one CRT, and we can spend no more than that on it. And that may mean it's only a 2-story building and not a 3-story, which takes a lot more foundation work. The other aspect that I'd like to, it sounds like these meetings are going on with the architect without any public input. So my question is, are they open to the public for public input? And I know that opens a whole big can of worms, but I think it's really important. And especially talking to clients who have experienced these situations. And maybe it needs like some focus group or something that you might put together. Thank you.
Thank you. You've spoke once, and just in the manner of time, the next item is on the basically the same thing.
I want to talk about the $500,000.
That'll be the next item. Okay. That's on the next item. Perfect. Any other further comment? Moving on, and make sure I have the right item. 3H, update regarding California Health Facilities Finance Authority CHFFA Grant for Crisis Residential Treatment Facility.
Yes,
That's the correct item.
Yes, you're good. All right, so I don't have much more to report this month. We will be going back in front of CHFFA in April. We are hoping to go back showing that we are making progress towards our milestones, because as you know, they've set milestones that we have to meet to keep those $500,000 We are looking, we're positive that we're going to be able to keep those milestones. I did want to just say that part of the conversations with the architect is about stakeholder groups and making sure that we get consumer feedback. And one thing I'm really pushing as we talk about going forward is how we incorporate some of our client artwork into our themes as we create these facilities. We have some amazing clients who can do some amazing artwork, and I brought some of that artwork to share with the architects to see the amazing artwork, and they were just in awe of the artwork. So we are moving forward, and I will be back in front of CHFFA in April.
Do I have any committee comment? Yes, sir.
Question. So when Ms. Duquette talked earlier today, she mentioned the date September 21, 2021 upon the, was that? November 2021. That's the first time I've heard that date. That is a projected date of completion on, if we move forward with the Orchard Street project, that would be the target date of completion?
Yes, so we have, it's, I think they've given us a little leeway into the middle of November, but the projection with our milestones with CHFFA is that we would be open and operational licensed by November 2021.
Further committee comment? Public comment? That's you. Oh, I'm sorry. I lied. These guys are as bad as you guys getting their pins up.
So I just wanted to point out that Carrie Brown had gone to this meeting that you were at. Is that correct? Yeah, CHFFA. And her report back was that they were really impressed with Dr. Miller's work there. So I know you've been working really hard on it, and I just wanted to remind everybody that they were very impressed, and that's pretty much why you guys got that, or we were able to keep that grant. So thank you.
Thank you. Any other further commissioner comment? Public comment, and my apologies.
Okay. Okay, Freddie Long again. The $500,000 mystifies me. $500,000 toward something that will cost maybe $10 million is not a good use of, I mean, let go of that. Howard Hospital could be renovated and fixed up and created much faster and for a lot less money than millions and millions and millions of dollars. My opinion. Thank you.
Thank you. Other community, yes.
Yes, it could. I had the honor of going through the Howard Hospital, and it was amazing, and it needs work.
I'm sorry, your name again.
Oh, Linda Posner again.
I'm so bad.
No, I am too. What I don't understand is I keep hearing about, I live in Willits, and I keep hearing about the Orchard Street project. And I'm thinking, how is there an Orchard Street project? That we are not terming it a Howard Hospital project or a Fort Bragg project, but I'm hearing Orchard Street project, and I'm not sure what that is. Could somebody please explain to me what the Orchard Street project is?
Thank you. Any other community comment? Name, please.
John Haschak, Board of Supervisors. And I think one of the things I'm hearing a lot out in the public is, and I think that some of the people have addressed today, is if we're going for this $500,000 grant from CHFFA, and it's like, what percent of this CRT project does that constitute? Is it 50%? Is it $1 million project? We're getting 500, or is it a 5 million or a 10 million that was just referenced? And so I think that's what a lot of concern is, that we're focusing too much on this CRT, and people want to know why this $500,000 is driving a decision. So thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor. Any other further public comment? Any further commissioner comment? Hearing none. We will move on to agenda item 3I. Discussion and possible action from the Regional Behavioral Health Training Center Ad Hoc Committee regarding update of outline plan describing relevant details of allocated funds to begin improvements to the Regional Behavioral Health Training Center before expenditure.
All right, so do you want me to start, Tom? So We have been working, the ad hoc committee we met out at the training center to to talk about how we get the training center where we want it to go, what does the remodel look like. We decided that we really wanted to roll this out in 2 phases. One, because we have that $50,000 already allocated. We need to go back in front of the Board of Supervisors with a plan on how we're spending the additional $200,000, which we sort of which we have outlined here for you guys today. But we also would like to get the facility open. So we know that if we get the 50,000 repairs done, we can at least open the facility and start using it sooner as we get phase 2 rolled out and those completed. So what you will see in your packet today, the first thing you will see is our phase 1 approach that outlines the dollars that we propose to spend today. You'll see the first part of that says facility improvements. Those are the things that we are looking at using the $50,000 on to get the facility up and open so we can start using it as a training center. We did need to put new carpet in. There was an issue with the HVAC, so we did have to repair that. There is a septic filter that needs to be replaced, and I won't go through everything, but you'll see kind of what we're looking at to get the facility up and running. We've had some pending requests from some additional things. We need to still talk about that as an ad hoc. There has been some conversation that if certain departments want to add certain things that would be used by those departments, that maybe they fund those. Behavioral health has stepped up to fund a couple items. We had some one-time funds that were specific for this type of use, so behavioral health is stepping up. These are things we would need for our own training opportunities, so we are offering to provide the projector, the screen, and a smart board in that facility through behavioral health dollars, and they're one-time fund dollars. So the pending items are things we still need to have a conversation with, but there has been conversations with different departments on if there's things they want to add, should that be added by that department or should it be a Measure B expense. Then you will see the next page, we have the operating expenses. We wanted to make sure that this committee was aware there are monthly operating expenses for that building that we have to bill to Measure B. And there seems to be a little bit of confusion that some committee members weren't aware that there would be a monthly operating expense on Measure B for running this facility. We are hopeful that Allison is going to work on a plan so that we can actually charge a fee for people to use the facility, even if it's a small fee, to help us recoup some of those monthly operating expenses for this facility. When you get into the next pages, you're really looking at phase 2 to what we wanted to do to get it into phase 2 and sort of the, we do have to get some things into ADA compliance. The parking lot would need to be ADA compliant. And there are a couple just other things we have to do to get the building where we need it, but we're really looking at that at phase 2, and I will let Sarah add the additional pieces to that.
Sarah Duquette, Executive Office. So on the plan, you'll see for the renovations needed, there's also a contingency. We are still uncertain about the allowance for the fire sprinkler. So you see with the fire sprinklers that could go over the 200,000. That's why we're being strategic with the phase 1 dollars and trying to get everything we need in just for basic operations. So we have some flexibility between the totality of the $250,000. I just want to note just an update of where we are with the training facility. The heater has been repaired. I got word from facilities that all of the flooring should be in by tomorrow. We took information services out there about a week and a half ago so they could take a look at all of the wiring systems so they can begin to put together their estimates of what they need to do to fix any of the wiring and hook up all of the technology and get the Wi-Fi set up. And so we're going to be moving forward and getting that on their schedule to work on that. We're trying to move as fast as we can. Now I think we'll be able to open and have trainings, but some of the technology installations may take a little time. So it might not be fully, rigged out right away, but definitely we will be open fairly soon. And we've also received all the bids for the furniture, and now that the flooring is in, we can have that ordered and delivered directly to the facility. So we are making progress fairly quickly.
Thank you. Thank you. I've seen more action in the last 3 weeks than I have yet, and I really appreciate what you're putting into this, Sarah. When you say you hope to have it open soon, is it fair to say it's reasonable that by the end of March, the training center will be up and running, at least at the phase 1 level?
Sarah Cat, I believe so. Now, if you need like bells and whistles for crazy projection and all that kind of stuff, no. But if you need a space to do trainings, yes, we can get that up and running in March.
Member Liberty.
So looking at the budget here for this, we had discussions about this, no pressure, Tom, but we had discussions about this, and the goal was all in 500,000, right? And I'm worried about make sure that I'm understanding this right, but the kitchen upgrade puts us just another 197,000 above the 257,000? Am I getting this right? Or that is the, oh, no way, maybe that's all together. So I guess my bottom line is, are we staying under the 500,000 all in?
Well, it's going to be what we get what we pay for. And so right now at the second level, or the second page of option 2, first and second page would get us to where we want to go.
Okay.
If we are going to do the remodeling, and certainly we don't know 100% on the fire sprinkler. I spoke to the planning director today, and he was going to continue looking into it. We'll see what it is. But there's a couple things I want the committee to make sure they understand. There's contingency, 15% contingencies that are built into this, and these costs that you're looking at are the most expensive possible cost. But the county's trying to get them done much cheaper. So there could be sticker shock by what you're looking at. But my guess, educated guess on this one is it is going to come in much less than what this is. And I appreciate Dr. Miller talking about how the Behavioral Health Department is putting equipment in here, and the Sheriff's Office is going to be doing the exact same thing. So we don't want sticker shock. We don't want someone to say, well, no one told us it was going to cost this amount of money. I think at the end we're going to say, gosh, we got this for less than what we had originally thought. So.
Yeah, and my apologies, I was looking at the 257, 258 up here, and then the 197 down here, when actually it's all in the same bill.
Correct.
Yeah. So I didn't pick that up earlier. Thanks. Yeah, I was thinking
Any
that's we're
any
way
other
over. Come
further
on.
committee discussion?
Well, my question is the Board of Supervisors told us that we had to have a plan before this $200,000 is approved by them. And now we are looking at this. Is this good enough for the project manager to do an agenda summary for the Board of Supervisors and move forward on this so we don't lose any more time?
Thank you. Any other, are you up again? Any public comment?
Sherry Ebiam, just a question. Are these papers that the committee is looking at, are they are? They're back here?
Sarah Cat, clerk of the meeting, the whole entire agenda packet, including all the agenda summaries and attachments, are posted online and are included in the public binder in the back of the room.
Oh, in a binder. And can you
Or downloaded online.
I actually tried to find Measure B related stuff online. Can you give me the actual website address?
The easiest way to do it, from the home page, you're going to see at the top a thing that says community. Click on community and you'll see Measure Health, the Mental Health Advisory Committee tab.
Community under mendocinocounty.org?
Yeah, mendocinocounty.org on the home page. On the navigation bar, there's community, the easiest way. There's a direct link under the community tab.
Thank you.
Further community comment?
Emmy Good, then John. I will say that
Name?
I said it. I'll say it again. Emmy Good. I have tried to monitor your website to see, whether or not the dates were there for the calendar, and I know that you hadn't determined where the Fort Bragg and the Willits one would be, and that calendar is up there. But no other information is. I was seeing if you published the agenda ahead of time so I could look at and see what was on the agenda, and that wasn't up there. And then the only contact person that was named up there was Isabel's name, which was still up there. So I think that people need to know that we want to be able to see what's happening with Measure B, but going online has not been easy. So I hope that you'll kind of make a public effort to keep us informed. Thank you.
Thank you.
John Haschak from the Board of Supervisors. Just to address that question about, is this sufficient for the Board of Supervisors? I don't know. I'm the chair, but I'm one person out of the 5. And this is the first, Dr. Miller just passed this over to me. This is the first I've seen it. And so, but I think that we were looking for a work plan to see how many people would be served by this, what the plan is for the trainings and everything. And so is this really the appropriate use? That's what the big picture is. Does it, these are numbers, but is it fitting to the description of what we really need? Thank you.
So, Madam
Commissioner
Chair, if I
Allman,
can
go
respond. So, we talked about 2 plans last month. We talked about the building plan itself, which is basically what you have in your hand, and then the training plan itself. And last month, as you know, we had the change of the project manager. And so now that we have a consistent project manager, we hope, Allison, that at the next Measure B meeting, we're going to be much closer to that result. So, but as far as a building plan goes, that's what I was asking. What you have in your hand is what we're hoping that, because the $200,000 is for the infrastructure itself, and so that's what that's for. We're hoping that's enough, but if there needs to be an agenda item with more explicit details, then you'll get it. It'll just delay where we're trying to go, but thank you.
Thank you.
Any further public comment? Seeing none, in order for this to move forward to the Board of Supervisors, I'd like to entertain a motion on the floor, please.
I'm going to make a motion that the building plan that was produced, I believe, by the County Planning and Building Department, they did the numbers, be approved by this committee and sent to the Board of Supervisors with an agenda summary requesting that the $200,000 that was talked about in December be authorized so we can move forward with the building projects.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Do I have any further committee discussion? All those in, sorry, Mark.
Should we include the operating expenses of the utilities to operate that building in this motion?
My motion would be we include all the information we have and allow the Board of Supervisors to talk about it, but remembering that the 25% of Measure B for the improved services is certainly going to continue through perpetuity unless the voters take it away, and the ongoing costs of the training center are going to be ongoing forever unless we stop the training center. So it would be out of the 25% for the incurring costs.
So the fees of $1,000 a month ongoing?
Those are very guesstimate because it says it lists sewer and garbage, and it has its own septic, so there's no cost involved with that, and I don't think that we're going to be charged $200 a month for trash. So I think those numbers were just written down not by me, but by the past project manager to talk about possible cost of where it could go. So the actual costs are yet to be determined, but certainly they're not going to be any higher than that.
Sarah DeKett, Executive Office. Once we actually have the training center open and it's been functioning for a couple months, we can come back and show you what the real operational costs are.
So, but we are including the operational costs in this motion. That's the question.
Yes.
Any other commissioner comment? Can I please have the motion reread?
Motion on the floor is the building plan for the training facility be approved by the Measure B committee and be sent to the Board of Supervisors for authorization.
Can you do that along with the ongoing incurring costs?
Mm-hmm.
Does the second agree?
Second agrees.
You ready? Yeah. Please reread.
Building plan and operational costs for the training facility be approved by Measure B committee and sent to the Board of Supervisors for authorization.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you. Now, I am on 3J, yes?
Yeah.
Thank you. Discussion and possible action of potential additional creation of Regional Behavioral Health Training Facility Ad Hoc Committee Group. Provide direction for this ad hoc committee to formulate a regional and/or county enhanced training program and training schedule for the Regional Behavioral Health Training Facility, and the addition of this ad hoc group to existing Regional Behavioral Health Training Facility Ad Hoc Committee.
Sorry, I didn't realize my name was on that. This is kind of a continuation from our last meeting when I expressed concern that we were adding a $500,000 conference room to the county's facilities and not necessarily expanding the behavioral health, mental health training programs that go with it. And so I requested at that time that we form an ad hoc to develop an enhanced training program that could be used in conjunction with the new facility. That item was not on the agenda, so we could not take action. So aside from that, I think the agenda title is pretty self-explanatory.
And how would you like to move forward?
I would like to make a motion to approve the recommended action that we add this ad hoc group to the existing Regional Behavioral Health Training Facility Ad Hoc Committee to begin work immediately developing an enhanced training program.
Yes, Commissioner Miller. Sorry.
Thank you. No, that's okay. My concern, which I'd love to have explained, is if we develop this program, how is it being paid for? Is it being paid for through Measure B? Because we need funding. If we're going to develop this program, we also have to fund it. So are we proposing that we create this program and fund it through Measure B, or are we assuming there's going to be other funding dollars on the table? I can speak from behavioral health. We do not have other funding dollars on the table for this. So I want to make sure if we are going forward with an item like this and we put all this work into it, that we have the funding to back what we develop.
Yeah, I was added to the ad hoc committee, and I don't feel this is one of my specialty, and I bring anything to the table on that aspect of the things.
So I just want to say also, this does have to do with this, but not directly. P&Ps for the training center are still at County Council. Policies, sorry, yes, thank you. Are still at County Council waiting to come back. We may want to wait until those come back and everything gets started to see if we actually need this. Just a statement.
Well, to Dr. Miller's request or concern, I don't think this program's going to cost us anything. What this ad hoc, and I hope I'm correct by the author, what this ad hoc is for is to really find out from behavioral health, from the sheriff's office, from NAMI, from Behavioral Health Advisory Board, from all the groups that are stakeholders on this, how are they going to be utilizing the training center and start formulating the pieces of the puzzle. So we're going to be using this as much as possible. But at the other hand, we're taking advantage of any other training that's coming from the state or from the federal government regarding mental health. Am I mistaken in my assumption?
No, I think that's fair. I want to see some expanded programming, and maybe this facility allows us to take advantage of opportunities that we couldn't previously because we didn't have the facilities. So I think Member Miller's question is fair. I am also not an expert in what trainings are necessary or currently happening, and so my hope is that this ad hoc could kind of develop some expectations as in terms of what Mr. Allman said, and bring that back to the committee. And if there is necessary funding required to support that training, then I think that's something this group should explore. That's something that is part of the original ordinance and something that is part of our mission.
Mika.
So, I think one of the things that would really help is, I was talking to Alman, when he says he does training, we don't really know what that is that are currently, so if we could, simple things like a list of what trainings you do. I know that you have trainings, but I'm not sure what they actually are, and I didn't realize, like Janine was saying, that we don't actually have money to do a training package but I do think that the Behavioral Health Advisory Board, it could be taken to them because we have a lot of input from stakeholders and Manzanita and all the places that are looking and have ideas. So at some point we could put ideas together that may cost, long down the line. But right now, a simple list of what the agencies are doing now that are going to be in the building, I think would be really helpful. Is that a place we could start? I mean, yeah.
So I'm looking at the project manager, hoping that we can, in the next couple weeks, we can discuss who the stakeholders are and that we can keep this on the agenda for next month so we can actually put people on the ad hoc committee and move forward.
Yes, I have every intention of collecting the information from various stakeholders and putting that into the business plan for the training center.
Commissioner
Madam Chair, I have a quick question.
Yes, sir.
So we're going to have a sign made, and maybe this was on the last agenda item, but I don't think it would be appropriate to have a sign made without this body understanding what the sign is going to say. Is that fair? So I think the official name of the training center is the Mendocino County Behavioral Health Regional Training Center. And then the sign would have the address, a green sign with reflectorized plate. I'm not trying to get too far into the weeds here, but I don't want to assume that that's what we're going to call it without this body understanding that's what we're going to call it. So once again, the Mendocino County Behavioral Health Regional Training Center. Is that appropriate to call this training center that? County of Mendocino Behavioral Health Regional Training Center.
Not regional first.
Oh.
Sarah,
Well, it's not regional behavioral health. It's Behavioral Health Regional Training Center.
That makes sense.
I know, but
Okay?
just for your knowledge, currently, based on the zoning of this building, your sign can only be 5 feet by 4 feet. If you would like it any bigger, we will need to apply for a variance with the Department of Planning and Building.
And we talked about that 3 weeks ago, and I'm glad we have the answer. 5 foot by 4 foot. So
Consider that with how many words you would like on said sign.
can you read the name of this building, the training center?
I've heard a couple different things, so if you can repeat it for me.
County of Mendocino Behavioral Health Regional Training Center, and then it'll have the address.
That's gonna be real tiny.
Well, the address can be really small. But the training center is in a spot where you drive past it if you don't know where it is. And so.
You're gonna say you're gonna have to drive really slow to be able to read it.
Yes.
Well, I want to support Tom on this, but I actually think Mika might be right that it may flow better if we say County of Mendocino, you said Behavioral Health Regional Training Center or regional? So Regional Behavioral Health Training Center. Is that what you said? County of Mendocino Regional Behavioral Health Training Center. Like,
And
it's
just
really
to be
gonna make that
the
big of a
devil in the
difference.
mix,
But
the
it
measure
might based on 2 lines.
the measure states Regional Behavioral Health Training Facility. So it can be center facility.
So we're okay with it. I don't think we need a motion. We're okay with it. No one has objection.
It's right in the dealy bop. So, okay, would it be fair, would it be, just 1 second, really quick, and then I'll get to community comment on this item, but would it be fair to table this after I get community comment? Sure.
Well, to me, Carol Hester, sorry, I can't make it over there. To me, the assumption is we're in Mendocino County, so we don't need to say the word Mendocino, which is very long. If we had the logo with county and the rest of it, that's all you need.
Further, yes, Joe?
Joe Bradley. Tom mentioned County of Mendocino. Why can't we just say Mendocino County and get rid of the of and the spaces on either side? And why does it have to be regional? It's the whole county. We don't have anything more. Does it have to have regional in it?
It does, because that's what the ballot initiative said.
Oh, never mind. Thank you.
Any further community comment? All you.
As the maker of the motion, I'm willing to continue this item, given the fact that the training facility is not yet ready to use, and our newly hired project manager is preparing some plans that I think will provide some of the information I'm looking for. So if we could have this placed on next month's agenda, I would appreciate it. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Moving on to item 3K, discussion and possible action regarding report from the Kemper Report Ad Hoc Committee. Member Miller. Of course, not me.
I noticed that. All right, so the ad hoc committee is meeting on March 6th. So we weren't able to get a meeting before this meeting, but we do have a meeting scheduled for March 6th. And we will be focusing on the strategic plan, which is what the committee was originally looking at, and still also really looking at a prudent reserve. We need prudent reserve for services, and we need a prudent reserve, obviously, for our buildings. So we'll be looking at that on our March 6th meeting.
Any committee comment, Mika?
I guess I would just ask if you need another member. I'd be willing to participate in that.
Okay.
If not, that's fine with me as well.
Thank you. Any public comment? Hearing none.
Donna, whoa.
What?
We'd like to add another member.
Okay.
So can I make a motion
Yep.
to add Mika to our ad hoc committee?
Do I have a second? All those in favor? All those opposed? Any abstentions? Sorry, my bad. So now we are on agenda item 3L, discussion and possible action regarding requesting the Behavioral Health Advisory Board provide recommendations on prevention and early intervention service gaps and possible programs that could be funded through Measure B. Commissioner Liberty.
Thank you, Chair. So this was kind of born of my frustration with how long it's taking to get any brick and mortar going. And I think the community shares that frustration. We've taken, $13 million from taxpayers and have got nothing to show for it yet. So not nothing, but not as much as we would like. So I wanted to kind of work through, this committee made an attempt to help fund MOPS. And then that didn't go anywhere, and that was just basically services oriented as opposed to brick and mortar. The ballot initiative promised the voters up to 75% would be spent on brick and mortar, and the balance on services. Well, services is something I think that we can do, that we can move forward, that can probably move forward quicker than brick and mortar and provide value to the taxpayers and other stakeholders sooner than later. So I kind of took a couple of shots at it and vetted it with some friends, and sort of came around to this. The possibility of MOPS, it didn't seem like that was the best bang for the taxpayer's buck. So I hope it's okay. I talked to Janine and Dr. Miller and asked for some insight, having none myself actually. They, and sort of this came out of that discussion, and basically looking to the Behavioral Health Advisory Board to give some guidance on what can we do. I mean, we have money we can spend to fill gaps. I mean, that was something the Kemper report recommended and looking at it from an outsider perspective, it seemed like wherever there's a funding stream, a silo rises up to meet it. And there's all these gaps in between, and we're actually, I think, empowered to fill those gaps. So I think that getting with them on where are these gaps, and maybe and it sounds like early prevention is one of them. Another thing the Kemper report pointed out was that that maybe 50% of the people that go to the crisis resident or crisis, what is it, CSU?
Stabilization.
Yeah, but that stuff. That that 50 up to 50% of those services might not be needed if we could address mental health issues before they get into a crisis point. So I wanted to reach out and say, well, what can we do, and how can we put together I guess a group, to an ad hoc or something to reach out to the behavioral board, behavioral Health Advisory Board, and see if we can get some input from them on how can we help fill some of these gaps and do better early treatment. That's me. That's it.
Okay. Any commissioner comment?
Is that something I'm supposed? Is that correct?
Well, I'm giving you the deer in the headlight.
Yeah. I don't know the correct procedure on how to do this, but we're happy to give you guys take this back. I'm happy to take it back to my board. We're actually setting our goals for the year at a special meeting, so I could bring it back to them and see how we want to facilitate and help Measure B with those services, because I think that's really important. That is on our agenda and on our scope that we could do for you guys.
Commissioner Allman.
Oh, and report back at our next meeting.
Ross, I'll have to say this is the most important topic we've had today. I appreciate this because this is where the rubber meets the road. And we've had Chief Wyatt from Ukiah come in here and talk about Cahoots, which is a very successful program in the municipalities that are utilizing it. And we as a body heard the police chief, we read his presentation, and we really haven't discussed it anymore. And we have the money. I mean, how often in Mendocino County can you say we have the money, we just don't have the program? Those are words that are rarely spoken in this building. So now we have the money, and I would strongly suggest we take the horse by the reins right now. And if there's a group that needs to go up to Eugene and spend time with some of those workers and find out if Cahoots is something that Mendocino County really needs and really could spend money on, then we need to do it. But everything up until this month has pretty much been an academic conversation because we've had money. We haven't had, $13 million. Now we have $13 million. And as you've heard me say before, taxpayers don't pay money to see us get interest on the money. They want services. And so with your agenda summary, which I appreciate, I'm certainly willing to commit to going anywhere, doing anything to see what we can do to assist the services of mental health to the victims in our county. And this is something that we should actually have on almost every agenda to see where are we going on this. So thank you very much for bringing it. So, but you're the maker of the motion, or the maker of the agenda summary. So where would you like to go on this, Ross?
I'm with her.
Would you like to see it be a standing item, and so that we can have everyone come back to us, Commissioner Allman, Commissioner Ferretta?
I'm good with that. I think that, but specifically right now, we specifically request that I gotta get all the names right here. We specifically request that the Behavioral Health Advisory Board look at giving us recommendations. I mean, it's like right now, let's say at our next meeting, let's have that.
Make your motion.
I'm trying.
Okay, hold on. Think about your
okay.
motion. Member Myrtle.
So, I totally agree that we need to provide services and service gaps. I think the Kemper report mentioned 10% in substance abuse, and I think we can all agree that a lot of mental illness is created by substance abuse. So that'd be something I'd like to see where we would fund. Also, being the devil's advocate, I think a lot of the 25% reserve was to fund the services of the 3 buildings that we're going to create. So anything that we plan on funding, we should put as pilot programs, because we definitely need to provide support for the services that we're creating in the CRT, CSU, and PUF.
Thank you. Commissioner Freda.
So I just want to clarify, when we did study the Kemper report, we did put forth some recommendations for the the programs that they recommended, and there's actually a document going around, so we'll make sure that that's in the next Measure B. And we kind of, I think we see it as really important, but we stalled a little bit on it just to have everything else get going. But I mean, the Behavioral Health Board we're willing to get back on and put that as a priority. So, and we oversee both.
Community comment.
Next up.
John Haschak, Board of Supervisors. I think this is a great idea, and I think that we have this Behavioral Health Advisory Board, which is underutilized in this process. I think that they really need to be giving you guys the ideas and, kind of showing what the path forward is with this, because they're really the experts. They have, community stakeholders. They have the whole gamut of people working in the mental health field. And so I think that if we do this is the right way to go. Thank you.
Mills Matheson. The Partnership Health Plan, Medi-Cal, is going to be starting a comprehensive drug abuse program in Mendocino County in the next few months. So you don't need to spend money for that. It's going to be a very comprehensive program. Second, I'm afraid, after looking at all the numbers, the CRT and the PUF unit is going to use all your Measure B money. You don't have any extra money.
Thank you. Further?
Thank you. Maureen Mulhern. I appreciate that this item is coming forward, and I would also like to request that the ad hoc incorporate the recent feedback from the Mental Health Services Act Stakeholder Forum that was held February 12th at Manzanita. I think that there was a lot of really important information that came from that meeting from users of our mental health services. So I'm sure that somebody in the county has that information, and I would really appreciate if the ad hoc looks at that as well. I remember that some of the key topics were around transportation and other important user impacts. Thank you.
Thank you. Further community comment?
Any good, and I'll make it really fast. Many of my suggestions here are things that don't cost money, and I really appreciate that your final item I think is really important. I have here copies of my 3-minute vision, and anybody who's here that would like to have a copy, I'm going to just leave them someplace here, and you can take one. Thank you, and I appreciate your efforts.
Thank you very much. Any other public comment? Ross, do you have your motion figured out? Oh, I'm sorry, I missed you. His is down, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I support the agenda item and the recommendation. Just a clarifying question, I guess. I also appreciate Member Allman's comments and Member Myrtle's comments, and so my question for the Behavioral Health Advisory Committee is part of your purview and potentially part of your recommendations regarding substance abuse, and also are you familiar with the CAHOOTS program that was mentioned, and would that potentially be something that the committee would review?
I'm going to have Janine.
All right. So yes, Behavioral Health Advisory Board oversees both mental health and substance use disorders treatment in Mendocino County. So that is both. They had the purview of both. So they oversee both. They actually review data and services on both programs that are offered through the county. We have not had a CAHOOS presentation at the Behavioral Health Advisory Board, but that is something, the information could be brought to them, and it could be something that they look at, and as they look at all services, they would see a service gap in. And they see services monthly, so I think one of the things that Behavioral Health Advisory Board, they have the data, they have the numbers, they know what services are offered, what services aren't offered. They know the parity issues between private insurance, mild to moderate Medi-Cal and Medi-Cal. So they have that real big picture of what does mental health look like in Mendocino County and what does substance use look like in Mendocino County.
Thank you. Ukiah Police Department has done pretty extensive research on the CAHOOS program, and so if you're interested, I could see if they would be willing to do a preliminary presentation or provide additional support, and I could just send that to Dr. Miller if that works.
Yeah, if you go ahead and send that to me, and then we are having a special meeting on March 6th, where they will be setting their goals and looking at other things, so Mika could bring that to that meeting.
Thank you.
Commissioner Angelo.
Yeah, thank you. First of all, I want to say that this, Ross, this was a great step forward on your part. Thank you for that.
I'll probably get a second on this one. I'm like the last one.
And I think that I would not want to see any type of ad hoc formed. I think that Mika going back to the Behavioral Health Advisory Board and bringing that information here and having a discussion about what they think and working with the Measure B committee would benefit all of us. I also think something that could happen in the future, and I would like this committee to consider, that we look at, once the Behavioral Health Advisory Board has time to do their more strategic planning and get back to us, that we look at sometime in the near future having a combined meeting of the Measure B committee, the Behavioral Health Advisory Board, and the Board of Supervisors. I would also say that our new project manager will be putting together organizational charts. The one thing that we haven't had is there has always been some confusion between the role of the Behavioral Health Advisory Board and the role of the Measure B committee. And what I believe that our new project manager will be doing is putting together a chart that shows what the Behavioral Health Advisory Board is accountable for and responsible for and legally responsible for, per statute, what the Measure B committee is responsible for, and then ultimately everything is under the authority of the Board of Supervisors. And I think that as we move forward over the next couple years, it will really benefit us to have that algorithm and to have that organizational chart. And again, that we consider sometime in the future, once this committee is ready and the Behavioral Health Advisory Board is ready, that we request from the Board of Supervisors that we have a combined meeting with all three bodies. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other commissioner comment?
So I'm happy to make a motion that would read, that this body requests the Behavioral Health Advisory Board provide recommendations on prevention and early intervention service gaps and possible programs that could be funded through Measure B. Having said that, Tom, you had a little different vision, and I don't want to miss that. So
No, your motion is correct. I think the farther we go down, I understand what your motion is, and that's what my intent was. The farther we go down the road of having money and having it spent correctly towards providing services is exactly what I thought your motion was. So
Yep.
we're on the same page.
So that,
you say it.
you know, Ross, it's
And
you.
add
It's
to,
me?
yeah,
Amend
add
the
to it.
motion.
Okay.
Simple, it's simple.
Not for a while then.
actually not that simple.
Oh, yeah, all right. So what do you want, lady?
And that Member Ferretta will provide a report back to the Measure B committee at the March meeting based on the discussion with the Behavioral Health Advisory Board, and I hope the timing works. Does the timing work?
Because we have the Wednesday.
That's implicit in the, all right, fine. We'll add that, what she just said.
Do I have a second on the motion?
I'll second it.
All those in favor? All those opposed? Bingo. So before we close this meeting, we'll have our comments, but I want to let everybody know, the IT gentleman, here's your new way to get information. Go to mendocinocounty.org/Measure B. Okay, member reports. None?
I just wanted to say it's an honor to sit on this board, and for those of you that don't know me, I actually did canvass for Measure B in the northern parts of the 5th and the 3rd District, and I've grown up in Laytonville my entire life. I'm actually getting my master's in marriage and family therapy, as well as I'm volunteering at Project Sanctuary, and I have taken the CIT training that the county offered, so just wanted to give people a little background on where I'm at this moment.
Thank you and welcome aboard. Commissioner Angelo, Commissioner Liberty.
Just a little bit, I'm on a hospital board as well, and they, at our last meeting, that was a community outreach board, and at our last meeting, they, we had talked at the Measure B last meeting, we had talked about St. Helena closing down their mental health part, and they're saying that they probably won't now because the state is probably going to bring some funding forward to help them stay open. They lost a tremendous amount of money in St. Helena in 2019, and they have to fix it. And so they'll close if they don't get that state funding. But the state, when they found out they were closing, started coming forward and saying they're going to provide funding so they can stay open. So I think that's an important data point for us, because it's important to know that, because it is going to be a market, right? If we have a puff, there's going to be a market. We're going to have to sell it. We're going to have to sell it. Now the competition is different than we thought it was in our last meeting. It's important.
Thank you. Member Ware?
I don't have anything new to report. I want to welcome our new committee member and also our project manager. I know I talked to Sarah a little bit, where one of our projects is going to be developing a budget, so I'll be working closely with the two of you on that. So anyway, welcome, both of you.
Allison, any comment? Member Murder?
I'll try to be quick. Met with the League of Women Voters at the end of October, discussing and defending the hiring of Nocton Lewis. That was a meeting that you realize that when you're sitting in front of a bunch of people that really question why you're on this kind of committee. But I think all in all went well. The one thing that I can definitely bring from the coast is they want mental health facilities. So providing all the services over here, you're going to have opposition from me. So we definitely want to get some mental health facilities there. I also attended a meeting at the Mendocino Coast Hospital on December 30th. It was a planning committee. They were discussing the use of the hospital for a PUF, for lack of a better word. I think I see some issues with that. Number one, the facility is going to be condemned in 10 years without remodels, so I don't know if that's a feasible scenario, but that's neither here nor there. We had some discussion. They wanted to look at facilities for a crisis residential treatment facility there. So that's something that we had looked at. I believe Supervisor Williams arranged a walkthrough at the old Lago Marcino orthopedic office, which is, I don't know exactly the address, but I can get it. It was a 20-room facility, a little too big for a CRT, but a nice facility that could be used in some facet in the town of Fort Bragg. Also attended the ad hoc committee in Redwood Valley, reviewing the training center. And finally, just want to see how we can communicate some of our ideas to the project manager without overwhelming the project manager and losing another project manager. I'm not sure what the process of discussing that is, but I think it's important that they get some guidance from, you know, others, especially related in the construction business, and if you're guiding a ship to not, you know, go down a path. That's it.
Thank you. Commissioner Riley?
Nothing to report. I would like to follow up on the budget for fiscal year 2021 and make sure that, I'm sure that the county by this point is in the stages of budget development for the next fiscal year. So I want to make sure that that's an agenda item, if not in March, by April at the latest for this committee.
Thank you. Commissioner Allman?
Thank you. I certainly like to welcome Mika here as well as Allison. If you look at our committee, and there's 10 out of the 11 original people who are still on this committee, and that's in 22 months. That's very significant. Consistency is very good. I've attended a couple things. I attended the Willits City Council, and I know that we have 2 City Council people here today. There were several citizens that spoke, encouraging the Willits City Council to be open to at least discussing Old Howard Hospital. And I believe it was a very productive city council meeting. I'd like to thank the 2 city councilmen for being here. Last week I spent in Orange County at a Peace Officer Standard and Training class regarding the equipment we're having for the training center. And we are on track for the $100,000 piece of equipment. The state does not have the equipment yet, but I have been absolutely promised that Mendocino County will be in the first group of 10 that will have this equipment, and it's because we have a training center. That's why we're going to be in the first group. To those of you who are representing someone on this board, so the 5 members of the Board of Supervisors have appointed you, and then myself, I'm here because of Sheriff Kendall and so forth, and NAMI and behavioral health. I encourage you to please don't wait till the minutes come out. Go to the next meeting and tell them exactly what we're doing here, because the communication is lacking. So tell your member of the Board of Supervisors that appointed you exactly what you're doing, so we can understand, they can have a better understanding. And then last week in Mendocino was the 3rd critical incident team, CIT training class that was attended close to by 40 people, 45 people. So many coast law enforcement, first responders, and mental health workers, as well as correctional deputies from Ukiah, attended the CIT class in Mendocino last week. And I really appreciate Dr. Miller having her staff set that up on the coast, and I hope we can do another one on the coast. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Barr?
There has been a state and partly federal offering for a grant that's been widely applied for in Mendocino County by the county itself, the Arch Clinics and Adventist Health, that it provides for mental health integration, meaning that we would have therapists in each clinic that would work alongside of the primary care practitioners and provide behavioral health therapy as needed, and widely screen patients incoming to the clinic. That I think, so we'll find out in another month who and how much is going to be granted in Mendocino County.
Thank you. And I apologize, we're 24 minutes late. But thank you all for being here, and thank you all for sticking around, and thank you for your comments. Oh, meeting adjourned.